Now, something that came up since we last spoke, when James Gunn brought the Justice League into the season finale of Peacemaker, that was something we spent a fair amount of time talking about here on the show. And it had a lot of people talking for a while because it was unexpected to suddenly have the Justice League show up on this Peacemaker show, and you have Jason Momoa's Aquaman, and you have Ezra Miller's The Flash. You have a stand-in for Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, and you have a guy clearly trying to evoke Henry Cavill's Superman. So there was a lot of conversation about that and how the fact that this seems to mean that Henry Cavill's Superman, which was not vetoed from the cut, is still in the mix. And we unpacked a lot of that. And James Gunn recently revealed that there's going to be a bunch more of that coming up in season 2. That in season 2 of Peacemaker, there's going to be more DCEU connections. I'm going to give you the exact quote, and then let's just kind of react to what he had to say. He said, I think we're going to see more connections and some other stuff as we move forward with Peacemaker and other shows at HBO Max. Because remember, there's still that top secret other Suicide Squad spinoff that he's got going on too. And he said, so those cameos will keep coming. I don't know if the Justice League is going to show up in every season of Peacemaker. That might be a one-time thing. We'll see. So when it comes to the Justice League itself, he's not 100% sure. But in terms of having this series interconnect with what else is happening in the DCEU, looks like there's plenty more of that coming here and elsewhere in the Gunverse on HBO Max. What do you think of that, Brett?
No, I think that's cool as long as it's not overused. Like, I don't want it to just be like, oh, every week who's gonna show up, because then
Yeah.
it
Like a
gets
gimmick.
honestly, I have a feeling if anything, you're gonna maybe see some characters from like the Suicide Squad movie show up,
Mm-hmm.
like that Peacemaker was in. It's
Yeah.
more likely that you'll see something like that,
Yeah.
or like maybe if depending on the release schedule, maybe they will reference or show like footage as like a news story from like one of the films that have come out. You know what I mean? Like, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like there's going to be things like that. But no, I think that's cool. Like that's a fun aspect. Listen, Marvel's doing it, and not that you have to do everything Marvel does, but it's fun. It just kind of it makes the world feel a little bit bigger, a
Yeah.
little more fleshed out, a little more connected. Dare I say? So I think that's a cool thing, and I trust James Gunn to do it and not like really overdo it. Yeah, it has a lot of potential, and as long as it's used, I mean, it was used kind of like for basically for a big gag at the end of the season. It was kind of
Yeah.
like a little like just like treat at the end. But yeah, maybe they could use it in a way that's a little more, centered around like whatever the plot of season 2
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
I could
By the
also see
way,
something like maybe there's some guilt from Peacemaker over having killed Rick Flag, and he starts
yeah,
seeing him in like some weird like ghostly, kind of guilt thing. I don't know,
we
like
get some more Joel Kinnaman. Yeah.
yeah, get some Joel Kinnaman. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think what's interesting about this too is like Gunn is in a unique position here. The timing of things is interesting because when he's making Peacemaker, the DCEU is still kind of in its limbo state. Things haven't fully completed the pivot that's going to happen when the Flash comes out. So he was kind of limited to like if he wants to pull in DCEU characters, it had to be either the Justice League or someone from Suicide Squad, right?
Yeah.
But for seasons 2 and 3 and onward, which are going to be coming out next year, presumably after we've seen Aquaman, we've seen Shazam 2, we've seen The Flash, and now things are more firmly reset. Now things are much more like clear on where DC's going next in the future. He'll have a much wider palette of characters to pull from and synergies to create with upcoming projects. Right now with Peacemaker, there wasn't a lot that he could do to try to like get you excited for another DC movie or to have that, like to create that bond between another DC project and this one. But next year, when Peacemaker season 2 comes out, the landscape for DC on film is going to be a little different.
Yeah.
So he's going to have some interesting options for characters to pull. And And by the way, you mentioned earlier, like right now, it was a gag mainly, right? The whole thing about Aquaman has sex with fish, and the whole thing. There was also a funny quote that came from Gunn this week about how Ezra Miller really took the ball and ran with that. He said that there's something like 16 extra minutes of that scene that's pretty much just Ezra Miller riffing on the idea of Aquaman having sex with fish.
That better get
I'm
released.
like, I
I
need
need
that,
to see that. It's
right?
probably
Just give me that. I don't even need the green screen effects. Just I want to hear what he improvised
yeah.
riffing on that topic. Um, but yeah, either way, I can't wait to see what Gunn does next, what other interesting connections he could use, especially with next year. There'll be a lot more connections for him to pull from. So yeah, I'm excited for that. But